my word to you, Aiden taught us obedience. I said, jump 3 times. And he jumped as high and as hard as he could. He demonstrated obedience. Here's what I'm asking. No. Here's my command to you. Share your faith before next Sunday and invite somebody to come and meet Jesus. Bring them to church on Sunday morning, Sunday night, or Monday night. Okay? Go do that. Please don't be discouraged. Most of the people you invite won't come. Most of the people you invite won't come. If everybody in this room, 100 plus people, invites 3 people, 300 plus people, I'll be surprised if 25 of them come. Wait a minute, Pastor. Didn't you just shoot yourself in the foot? No. It's discipleship. You're going to invite them to come to church next Sunday, and they're not going to come. But you didn't waste your breath. See, here's the thing. Remember how I told you at the beginning how discipleship is a process? You go up to an atheist and you try to move them from being an atheist to an agnostic before you can never get them to go, well, there might be a God to where your God should be my God. There's a process that takes some time there. And for some of you, you're going to stick your neck out for perhaps the first time ever and go to somebody you know very well and you really have a good relationship with, and you're going to say, would you come to church with me next Sunday? And they're going to say, why? And you're going to say, we're going to have this power team guy do these feats of strength, and they're going to share about knowing Jesus. You know I don't go to church. I don't believe in God. I know, but you're my friend. It's important to me. Would you just come? Some of them will. Most of them will not. But that doesn't mean that your obedience was wasted. Because even though they don't respond to you today, you've planted the seed. You remember about the apple tree? Just because we've planted the seed doesn't mean we get an apple tomorrow. It has to be cultivated and watered and rooted and developed. And you may plant the seed by sharing your faith this week, and it may not come to fruition until sometime later on. Let me give you an example.
Hello, my name is Randy Fry, and I guess I've never been a horrible person by the world standards, but I've done some things that I think are horrible, things I'm still trying to forgive myself for. As a child, I went to church a few times a year, usually as a guest of a friend from school, various denominations, various churches. Sometimes my mother went, and I went with her. It was not a regular thing, though. I don't remember exactly, but I would think we only went together maybe 5 or 6 times during my childhood. It might be more, it might be less, but somewhere around that. We lived just a few blocks from Baptist Bible College, BBC, and I remember that some of the students would walk our neighborhood carrying their Bibles, and they'd talk to anyone, kids outside playing. They'd knock on doors, whoever answered. Just about everyone I knew, myself included, called them Bible thumpers. I tried to avoid them. As an adult, I was in restaurant management, and I had the opportunity to work with, hire, even spend some quality one-on-one time with lots of men from Central Bible College, CBC, and BBC. Several of my best friends during those years were in fact some of these men. One in particular I spent a lot of time with in the late 70s, early 80s, playing racquetball, hanging out, working, asking him hard questions. You know the kind. Something like, since God can do anything, can he make a rock so big that even he can't move it? Crazy, I know. But he was patient with me. But I never even got close to believing in God or Jesus. I laughed at him to his face and behind his back. But fast forward to the spring of 1996. My wife and I were having a heart-to-heart discussion about our goals. And out of the blue, I told her that there was something missing from my life, and that the only place I felt I could find it was at church. Within a few days, we were attending church, and we made it a regular commitment. This time I paid attention, and God had softened my heart, and immediately I saw what I'd been missing all those years. I knew I'd made lots of mistakes, and believed that I wasn't good enough for God. And you know what? I was right. I wasn't good enough, and to this day I still don't measure up to His standards. But the incredible news is that I didn't have to, and I still don't have to be good enough for God. Only one person has ever been good enough to meet God's standards, and that one person was Jesus Christ. His once and for all sacrifice on the cross was the payment for everything I had ever done and everything I will ever do wrong. I just had to admit my mistakes, believe that Christ was the Son of God, that He died on the cross and was raised on the third day, and the final step, ask Jesus to save me and forgive me for all my sins. So, I did. And He did exactly what He promised. Since then, I work hard trying to be more like Him. I fail several times a day. I ask Him to forgive me, and He does. Then I try again. I used to have trouble sleeping at night because I'd lay there wondering what happened after death, fearing non-existence, and worrying about who would take care of my children. It felt like my head and my heart were going to explode whenever I allowed myself to think about it. But since I got saved, my hopelessness and my empty feelings are gone. I never have those thoughts anymore because I know where I'm going. And praise God, I know who will take care of my children after I'm gone because they're saved too. I also know that we'll be reunited in heaven when our days here are over. And that's something awesome to look forward to. I want you to know that when I got saved, I found that crazy kid from CBC and told him. I felt next to God, He had the biggest part in my salvation. I knew He'd want to know. Recently, I found out my father has terminal cancer with just weeks to live. He's been lost all his life. I had planted seeds, watered, put him in good light, but nothing happened. Once I found out he was terminal, I swallowed my pride and talked to him again. The result? He said, when you come to visit me, leave your coat and your religion at the door. He went on to say, I wish I had my right mind so I could defend myself. I told him, Dad, you don't have to defend yourself. I'm not attacking you. I love you and I want to spend eternity with you. The next time I was able to see him was about a week later. I picked him up to take him out to breakfast. As I was holding the door to the van open, he said, I'm ready to get saved. Only God could have made that kind of a change in his heart, and that quickly. And praise God, now my dad is saved. I know I'm going to miss him after he passes until God calls me home, but I have the comfort of knowing that my dad will be waiting for me when I get there. My wife and I are both in real estate, and we have our own company. And to kind of give you an idea of how things have changed for me, we named our company Great Commission Realty. And I'm sure you're familiar with the Great Commission. If not, just ask. People have asked what that name means to me, and let me tell you, I'm excited when they do because I get to tell them. You know, my friend from CBC probably didn't think I heard a thing he said. I didn't think my dad heard a thing I said either. We don't have to be good at sharing our faith. We just have to share it. God does the hard part. I hope you found the peace that I have. If you haven't, I hope you do before it's too late. Thanks for listening.
Musicians, come help me close the service. If you haven't figured out by now, I'm his crazy friend from CBC. Last time I saw Randy was 81. He didn't get saved till 1996, 15 years later. The seed was planted. I spent hours talking to Randy about Christ. I travailed over him. And he laughed to my face. He told you that. And that's the gospel truth. He was so cynical and bitter and angry and resentful. He just... And now, not only is he saved, he's discipling others. It was a week ago that I told you sharing your faith is quite simple. One person becomes a committed believer, and they reach out to another, and they start that process, and they in turn reach out to someone else. See, sharing your faith, it works the same in discipleship as it does in evangelism. It's one trains another, who trains another. We love people at First Assembly of God. We do. I love you, and I love all the people in this community. And if we love them, we'll share our faith with them. Would you share your faith, please? Invite a lost person to come to First Assembly on Sunday or Monday of next week. Share your faith by discipling the ones who confess Christ and become believers. I love what Randy said at the very end of his testimony. He said, we don't have to be good at sharing our faith. We just have to do it. John, you're off the hook. I had 20 minutes in here for John to tell you what God's doing among the men on Wednesday night. The men, how many of you, guys that have been coming to the Wednesday night, stand up. I see Ben, I see Adrian, I see Joseph, Brother John, Corey. Have a seat again, guys. John has been discipling these men and talking to them about intimacy with God. And they've all got stories they can tell you about what God's doing among some of the men in our church. I wish we had the time today. But I promised you I'd let you go after about 8 minutes. It's been